Hi everyone, and welcome to this short video on answering explain questions, the short response questions of the QCAA Economics external exam. We're going to look here at writing structures and strategies. Over the last 3 years, there's been 2 of these types of questions in the exam, where the cognitive verb or the direction is explain. I'd like to try and break this down in a bit of detail for you today. Okay, the reason why I want to do this is I think they're easy marks, and it could be a really good way to set yourself up for overall success in the exam. So we're looking here in this question, have a quick read of the question yourself, explain how the job seeker payment is the main income support for Australians aged over 22 who are unemployed and looking for work. That's purely just context. The direction here, this is what you have to do in your answer. Explain how automatic stabilizers operate, bit of theory, and describe the stabilizing effect in the economy, in the economic cycle, and draw a diagram. Okay, so we start to see there's a few things we've got to knock off at this point. Let's go back to our pen. So the first step here is to think about is what is the theory? What's the theory area on this? Okay, and the theory area on this, once again, I'll break down the question a bit for you. The theory area is you'd have to explain that this is fiscal, non-discretionary. I think that's a good way to start, isn't it? Non-discretionary. Okay, non-discretionary fiscal policy. And you're going to see basically automatic stabilizers is changes in tax and changes in government expenditure that occur because of the position we are on the business cycle. Okay, the second part here is what causes, the how is what causes these stabilizers to work? What causes these stabilizers to work? So we've got to look through it a little bit now and say, well, the cause of the stabilizer here is when economic activity drops. Okay, when AD drops, we're going to see an increase in, we're really looking at job seeker, aren't we? So we're going to see AD drops, we're going to see an increase in total job seeker. And that, therefore, is going to increase AD. It's going to pull us out of a trough. And also the other side of it there is as AD rises, as that happens, job seeker drops. Because less people require it, because higher AD equals higher employment. Okay, and so therefore drops in job seeker, and so therefore it stops the economy overheating and getting too inflationary, and it starts to kind of stabilize AD again. What are we going to do for that? Do it like stabilizing AD again. Okay. Now here we've got to think about drawing a diagram. This is always at this point here, you've then got to link it to your diagram. Okay. So what causes it? So we see a change in aggregate demand leads to a change in job seeker. Okay. And I'm going to focus on those first 2 parts there. So when we draw our diagrams, these explain questions, always give it a title. Always give it a title. Be accurate in your axes labels. So this one is GDP, real GDP over time. And then you've got your business cycle looking like that. And at this point here, we really need to think about labeling up some points. Okay, so we're going to describe this in terms of the business cycle. Now, fiscal policy tends to work better in a trough, tends to have more effectiveness coming out of a trough, okay, apparently. So let's call that point A. And if we didn't have that increase in job seeker at point A, we'd probably see that economic activity would drop much more. Okay, so we're seeing a stabilizing effect. We will drop down to somewhere like point B. But we'd also see that at that peak, there'd be a high position there. Okay, so now we're in a position here where we're breaking this down. At that point C, we see that the decrease in job seeker actually manages inflationary pressures and keeps our economy under a bit more control. It stops the big ebbs and flows. Okay, why does it function? This is where you come back and say, explain how the government intervention, even though it's non-discretionary, it still is a government intervention because it's government spending money. The government intervention adjusts level of economic activity because, okay, and then give some justification for it. You might want to hear really in this why, where in how we've kind of brought up the idea, don't I go on there, what are the causes, Really at this point, I think maybe we're talking here in the why, we're talking about the effects. So on this question here alone, let's just highlight our key ideas: theory, causes, and effects. The model is accurately drawn with a title, axis labels, my business cycle's increasing, etc. Let's see how it goes against a marking guide. Okay, so against the marking guide, we've accurately represented the economic cycle. We've included title and axis labels. We've included 2 points showing a change in the trough position, that little fella there. That was a really tricky one in the exam, okay? But if you missed that, let's assume worst case scenario and you miss that one and you don't show that trough there, okay? You don't show that trough. You still get 1. You get 1 out of 2. You're 50% of the way there. So let's just then talk through the next steps and see how we go. If you got it, then you would have got 2 out of 2, but let's assume it's 1. The second part, explain how automatic stylers work to smooth out peaks and troughs in the economic cycle. That's the theory, that's the what. Describes how an increase in job seeker would smooth out troughs and links to diagram. There we see the how, and I guess the why, don't we? Okay, at that point there. So suddenly, with this what, how, why, or theory, cause, and effect, we've given a level of detail which allows us to score ourselves 4. This question's out of 6. Even if we just draw the economic cycle correctly, we only get the 1 there. We're still on a minimum of 5 out of 6. But you could be on 6 out of 6 if you really know your stuff. That is heaps better, say, than just getting 50%, just getting half right. Okay, so theory, cause, and effect. What, how, why? Let's test it on the 2022 paper. The 2022 question, country A is dependent on oil exports. Major oil destination country has discovered an environmentally sustainable substitute for oil. Explain and illustrate the effect on country A using 2 economic models. I'm only going to do 1 today because I've done a whole video breaking this question down. You'll see it under my 2022 EA video playlist. So once again, we're just going to call this theory, cause, link to the diagram, and effect. So let's just do 1. The simplest one to do is demand, giving it a title to start for oil. I'll give it a title first so I don't forget to give it a title. Okay, price, quantity, do you spell it there? Okay, if you're ever wondering how I remember these, I get sky high with supply and I get down with demand. Sky high supply, get down with demand, always, and then I never get it wrong. P and Q. Okay, so there's a substitute for oil. The substitute for oil is we're going to see a change in demand. Now, which way does demand change for oil? Change in demand for oil. We're going to see a change in demand for oil. Okay, what's causing it? The substitute is causing it. How does it, is that spelled correctly? I hope so. How does it appear in the diagram? A change in demand for oil. What's the change in the demand? It's falling. Therefore, demand for oil is shifting to the left. As a consequence, as the effect, what's happening to price? What's happening to quantity traded on the market? What's happening to our equilibrium position? Should I mark these as equilibrium A and equilibrium B? Should I mark this as Q1 and P1? Okay, so that's just one exemplar there, okay? But once again, the substitute, we're doing a drop in the demand for oil. We see that in diagram, okay? The substitute is influencing the level overall of demand for oil to D1, and then the second one you probably likely do with that would be a PPC. So you can check the marking guide on this one here, okay? But let's look at how it appears now. Once again, this explains structure for a what or a theory, how, maybe call it a cause, and why, maybe that's the effect at this point. Okay, so once again, we're going to look at the first stage here. Draws an accurate diagram. Includes an accurate title, axis labels, and relevant notation. So if you just get your diagram correct, you've got 2 marks. And if you do that for both of them, you've actually got half the marks of the question. describes a clear movement before and after change using correct terms, and refers to diagram. Every time it says this is the refers to diagram. Every question seems to, the last two questions have had this. Explains the change resulting, the effect resulting from the oil substitute discovery. We get another tick. And then, so if you then, you can pause this video or pull up your one on your QCA paper yourself, pause it here and have a read through. I did it for the first one. I reckon I could do that for the second one like that as well, because I know my theory. And so all of a sudden we start to think here, this is 8 out of 8. We've got 8 out of 8 because we understand theory, we understand our models, and we understand our writing structures. This is critical. I hope this helps. Okay, let's wrap up. In working through an explained writing structure, what? Focus on the question, think about your theory. Link to diagram. Draw an accurate diagram. Make sure your diagram is accurate. Talk about the causes. Accurate diagram. The causes and the effects or the significance. Okay, the outcomes. Or the changes. But you must here, in this step here, this second step, this how, you must really link back to your diagram. So, you know, for instance, I'm going to go here, e.g., we've gone from equilibrium A to equilibrium B. And that would be clearly articulating. And then here, for instance, if we think about that question again, you'd probably say the outcomes for the supply and demand one. Once again, the outcomes is a drop in price and a drop in quantity traded. Okay, so in summary, if we think through this, we can go what, how, why, or theory, cause and effect. And you're probably on track. Theory, writing it again. Cause, effect, or outcome. Okay, it gets a bit crazy with my writing sometimes, but guys, look, I hope that makes sense, and all the best in your preparation for your upcoming exams. Thank you.